If you're having problems installing the ColorLogic palettes and plugins, it could be one of a couple of issues. It's highly unlikely that most people have issues actually installing our palettes and plugins. It's a very simple installer that we use. It's usually down to using the wrong installer. And this is more apparent in countries such as the US, where there are two different types of installers that you could use, because Adobe uses two different types of languages. So in the Western world, in the US, you have International English and you also have US English. So two different installers for Adobe. That means that we have two different installers for our system. So for the first thing that we need to do is identify what version of Adobe language you are using on your computer. So let's start with Adobe Creative Cloud accounts. So these are the cloud-based accounts. You should normally have the application for Creative Cloud installed, and it should normally be in your Apple menu. If not, you'll find it in your applications folder. What we're going to do is click on there. Then we're going to go to this flyout menu for the options, and we're going to go down to Preferences, and then we're going to go to this tab called Creative Cloud, and there we have it. That tells you the language I'm using. So international language is for English. So let's now look at the installers. What you would have when you download your installers, I'm just going to try and show you this. Try and show you something that you would have downloaded. Okay, so what you would download is, say, a little zip file from our website. You would uncompress it, and inside there you'll find a whole bunch of installers for each different language that Adobe supports. So you need to know which one of these two, if it's English, that you're supposed to be installing. Now my computer is English International, so I know I'm using the English International version. If yours was set to English North America, then use the English US, and that is as simple as it is. It's all about using the correct installer for the correct language. Okay, so that's fine for Creative Cloud. Now, how do we find out what that application install locale is going to be using Adobe Creative Suite? This is the desktop applications that you buy and you keep. It's not a Creative Cloud subscription. So we're going to do something slightly different this time. We're actually going to go to Applications and just open that up in a new tab. So move it over here so we can see both of them. Okay, so we open up the applications and we recommend using the Illustrator folders to find out what you're using. So I'm just going to use Illustrator CS5 for example in this case. I'm going to go to double click on it. I'm going to go to Presets, and it tells us here ENGB. So that's EN for English, and GB is for the international. If that said EN-US, then the EN is English and the US stands for US. So it just identifies ENGB is international. So that's the very, very first thing you need to do. Use the correct installer language for your computer. Now, assuming you do that and you've installed it and it says it's installed and completed, and you say you cannot find the palette, then it really depends on what palette you're trying to find. So this is where sometimes with support requests we need as much details as possible, because what happens is if we don't know what your questions are, we can't give you the answer. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We are going to go into, let's go into the website actually, because it'll be easier to actually show you on the website. So let's go into, we'll start this again. You go to the ColorLogic client login area, you click on the printer vault and you log in. It would ask you for your username and password the first time, etc. But once you're in, you can then get all access to these files. Okay, so we do recommend you watch our training videos. Now this is because most people don't read these manuals, but we also recommend you read the manual as well, because how can you learn how to use a system that's completely new unless you read or watch how to use it? Please don't try and just fumble your way through. The most commonly asked technical support question is someone that says, I cannot see your color palette. So what I normally say is, right, let's first of all, what program? And they say, I can't find it in InDesign. So I go, okay, right, let's open up the user manual first of all. And let's navigate down the side here to Adobe InDesign. Okay, so this is the Adobe InDesign section. Now we're working with all these palettes. It tells you how to do your watermarks, etc. Let's just click on the first one, Mixed Ink Color Palette. So this tells you all about the types of color palettes you're using. And down here it says, if you cannot see the ColorLogic palette in the list, scroll right down to the bottom of the list and click on Other Library, and it tells you where to load it in. Now this is because it's a very, very special palette. It cannot be loaded normally through like an Adobe Color Book, which is what Illustrator or InDesign or Photoshop would need. So it has to be done manually. Now, most people, as I say, don't read manuals, so we put everything into our training videos. We even condensed it down and gave some quick start tutorials. So for example, in this one for Adobe InDesign, at about the, let me just turn the sound down on this one, at about the 2-minute mark around here, it then explains about having to load the palette in manually and how that you have to do this the first time, and once it's installed it will be there provided your Adobe doesn't quit, etc. So, you know, if you've not watched the videos, do watch them because it does tell you the very important steps on how to get the palettes and plugins. For Photoshop and Illustrator, again, same thing, do watch those. But then when you want to learn how to do the different techniques, for example, if you want to use Illustrator or InDesign, maybe like you want to use watermark effects in InDesign, there's a video that shows you how to do it. If you want to work in Photoshop, we even have a video that tells you about converting images and, you know, adding a little bit of clipping around your images, softening the edges. There's tips and tricks that tells you about how to work with our palettes. You know, in Photoshop, the palette is loaded up through, you see, most people think our palette will be a swatch, in which case they try and find a swatch palette, and it's not a swatch palette. You access it from the foreground and background color picker. You go to color libraries and you'd find it in our list. But these are just CMYK colors. It's to be used and to add and make metallic later. But again, you have to watch the tutorial videos to be able to learn how to use this system. So there we have it. First of all, make sure you're using the correct installer for your local language of Adobe on your computer. It's the same for both Macs and PCs. Second, if you can't find palettes such as InDesign, is it because you've not actually read about how to load the palette up first of all? Now, if you have done all that and you've said that, you know, you've used the correct installer, you still can't find things, then it could be down to a permission issue on your computer. So if you're on a PC, then we do recommend installing with admin rights. But again, this sort of thing is usually explained in our installer files. So for example, PC in here, let's see, CS6. Yes, there you go. When installing on a PC, ensure you right-click and install and run using administrator rights. So we do try and give you as much support already in the system. Failing that, we also have our FAQ section. So go to the FAQs. If you have a problem with, say, FX Viewer, click on the FX Viewer tab and it will tell you all our commonly asked FAQs about that application. Okay, so before all of that, the other thing that we do recommend, watch this movie here. This tells you about this login area. It tells you about the user manual, about the tutorials and how to use the system. So watch, learn, and then if you have a problem, then obviously email us, but give us as much information as possible. We need to know what version of Adobe you're running, whether you're on a Mac or a PC, if there are any error messages, if you can't find a palette, which palette are you trying to find? You know, the more support information you can give us, the quicker we can respond to you with correct information. Okay, good luck. We hope you don't have to ever come across this video, but if you do, then obviously, hopefully this helps you. If not, contact us at support@color-logic.com.